I appreciate the honor very much. Thank you. I cannot tell you, I love the term roaring lambs, but I cannot tell you how much we need roaring lambs right now. More than any point in our history is what we do nationally. A lot of that involves polling. We have a national poll in the field right now, work with a number of national pollsters you would know. We look at the culture. We examine metrics. We use metrics all the time to know what works, what does not work. I will tell you there's some victories going on. General mentioned that 10 of us are working on 3 particular issues. We had a case at the U.S. Supreme Court last term. We won. We have 2 cases at the U.S. Supreme Court this term. One of them was heard 3 weeks ago. They are massive. I will tell you, as a result of the win we had at the Supreme Court last year, we now have religious liberties in America that we've never had in my lifetime, and I've got white hair. So it goes back a ways. We are seeing victories now that we have not experienced in the last 60 years. So there are things happening. There are things happening in the right direction, but the opposition is probably stronger and more polarized than it's been since 1856. As a historian, I would say 1856 is the last time the nation was as polarized as it is right now. So as a result of the polarization, it involves using different types of tactics. We are very blessed with history. We know the Bible says there is nothing new under the sun. In our case, we have about 120,000 items from before 1812. So I have original documents going back to whatever issue you want to talk about, constitutional issues or racial issues or religious issues, whatever it is. And so that gives us a good perspective on so many things we face today. Part of that deals with what we call revival. There is a real sense in America that because of where polling is heading, I hear so many Christians say we have to have a revival. We need a revival. We've got to have a national revival. In May, there will be 50,000 groups across America praying for revival in America. We're seeing arenas. We saw one just a month ago. 100,000 people came together in an arena to pray and fast for revival. We see this all over the nation. The problem is we really don't quite know what revival looks like. We think we do because we think it'll be a quick fix for the ills we have. Revivals typically span decades. They are not quick. The First Great Awakening lasted from 1730 to 1770. It was a revival that shifted the nation. It took 40 years to do that. And so trying to get people involved for the long span, rather than just God sweep in on the weekend, we're all great by Monday morning, it's not what a revival is. And so where we see ourselves in the nation right now, we have a necessity right now for more individual roaring lambs than we've had in our history. And let me see if I can explain that. Part of the problem we have right now is technology is great. It has given us so much more ability to multiply what we do, but it's also created some individual problems we've never had before. With the media we have right now, wherever you get your news source, whether it's MSNBC or Fox or CNN or One News Now, whether it's Blaze, it doesn't matter what it is. What you get is a steady diet of 24/7, 365 national news. You get nearly nothing about your community. And so as a result, as we see national news, and I'm very involved in the political world, probably 120 members of Congress I consider to be very good friends. We talk regularly all the time. And I see what goes on when they passed the Equality Act a couple of months ago. And that Equality Act said, you know what? Religious beliefs have to give way to LGBTQ beliefs in every occasion. Otherwise, if you don't, you'll be facing legal consequence. So I would love to be able to call the people in Congress, Speaker of the House and others, and say, are you crazy? You can't do that. That's unconstitutional under the First Amendment. You can't do it. I can't do that, and I'm well connected. I can't call the White House when I get frustrated and say, change this. I can't call the U.S. Supreme Court and no justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. I can't call them and say, what were you guys thinking when you ruled this? I don't have the ability to do that. And so for people across America, very few of us, none of us have the ability to do that. We get frustrated because we can't change things. And as a result, we become largely paralyzed because we are looking at national views and national problems. Let me take you back to the beginning of America in terms of the American Revolution. The first 4 battles we fought for our national independence were the Battle of Lexington, the Battle of Northbridge at Concord, the battle on the road to Boston coming back from Northbridge, and then Bunker Hill. In those battles, those first 4 battles that helped set the tone for independence, nobody contacted the national commander-in-chief and said, George, what do we do? We got British here. What are we going to do? In every case, the community leader said, it's our community. In Battle of Lexington, The Reverend Jonas Clark went and got 70 guys from his church, and his church went out to face 800 British. That was the first battle. The Battle of Lexington was a church said, it's our town. You're not going to mess with our town. We'll take care of it. The second battle, a few hours later, the Battle of North Bridge at Concord, you had the Reverend William Emerson, who got 300 guys out of his church and went out and faced the 800 British. It's our community. We don't need help. We can take care of our community. Then on the third battle, the road to Boston, 19 miles back to Boston after North Bridge at Concord, you had between 4,000 and 5,000 Americans that lined the road. They were led by Reverend Benjamin Boss, who brought his congregation, Reverend Payson Phillips, who brought his congregation. All these congregations showed up and said, no, you're not going to mess with our rights this way. We'll take care of this. Even at the Battle of Bunker Hill, it was the Reverend Joseph Willard who said, oh, a battle? I've got 2 companies from my church. We'll be right there. All across the American Revolution, we only had George step in when there wasn't a local community able to handle things. We handled things community by community. That was individuals making a difference. We weren't looking at the national battle and the First Great Awakening, the Reverend George Whitefield. George Whitefield preached for 34 years across America, made 7 trips on horseback from Maine to Georgia, back and forth. He preached 34,000 sermons, and 80% of all Americans physically heard him preach a sermon. Now, that's amazing because they had no technology like we have. What it means is he was in 80% of the communities of the United States so that people could hear. See, the revival was a local revival in all sorts of local areas that combined to make a national revival. We have a tendency today to look at things from the top down. You always get healthy from the bottom up. Revivals work from the bottom up. Politics works from the bottom up. Everything is won from the bottom up, not from the top down. So because of that, we don't see the power of the individual anymore. We look for a leader. We look for an expert. We look for a professional. Let me give an example even of our faith. Statistics right now, and we spend a lot of time on these kind of polls and statistics. Right now, Christian faith in America is plummeting, while Christian faith in the world is soaring. The number of Christians around the world through the roof. There's 384,000 churches and senior pastors in America right now. Working with George Barna, call 500 churches a day, 500 senior pastors a day. Ask them 6 simple questions. What we find right now is that 72% of churches, Christian churches in America, say they do not believe the Bible, do not agree with the basic Christian teachings. That's 72% of our churches, but that leaves 107,000 churches, or 28%, that do believe in the Bible and its teachings. That's enough to change a nation. So we look at those churches, we call them theologically conservative. We do polling among those churches, 500 a day, and we find out from them how do you know if you're a successful church? And it's interesting, the top 5 answers from the theologically conservative pastors on what makes them a successful church, none of the answers come out of the Bible. I mean, we don't think biblically today in the church world or in so many areas. And as a result, what we've done is over the last 2,000 years, as we have worked to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ across the world, we've done a fabulous job. Right now, 32% of the 7.5 billion people in the world are Christians. We are the largest world religion by a long ways. 21% is next with Muslims, 14% with Buddhists, and 7% with Hindus. So 32% of the world's Christian. We pay professionals to share the gospel. We pay our pastors and our missionaries and our evangelists. We put a lot of money into sharing the gospel, and we see the results. 32%. Right now it's exploding even higher than that. But let me give you a different idea. We've been working to convert the world to Christianity for 2,000 years. Let's say that just this year we did the Great Commission, which essentially is everyone win one. Jesus looked at his disciples and said, go tell everybody else everything I've told you. So go find somebody and tell them. So if we just individually as a Christian said, you know what, I can't change the world, but I'm going to find one person. All I'm going to get is one person, and I'm going after that one person. That's my only objective this year. If we're 32% of the world, if every one of us just reached one person this year, next year would be 64% of the world's population. 1 year after that, the whole world would be Christian. We could do it in 2 years, but we keep waiting for the professionals to do it. You know, the guys that are expert in it. No. This is where roaring lambs step up. See, if every one of us were to touch and reach someone else, we get this thing done so much faster than any of us comprehend. So really, we're at a place now where that everything around us screams national, global. Everything we do with communication, telecommunication, we think out here. No, focus right down here. As a matter of fact, last thing I'll share, polling on the millennial generation and the Gen Z generation, the rising leadership, everything America is going to be 30 years from now is in millennials and Gen Z, everything. It's business, it's medicine, it's entertainment, it's sports, it's media, it's government, it's education, you name it, they've got all of it. And if you see the national statistics, it's very disturbing if you look into the future. For example, when you look at our national prosperity, we see polling right now that says that 75% of college students want to get rid of the free market system, go to socialism. 69% of millennials want to do so, and 41% of all Americans want to do so. We saw this week that 3 out of 4 millennials believe the First Amendment should be changed to not allow free speech anymore and needs to punish those who have hate speech. So we're seeing radical transformation. What do you do with that? Well, first off, you got to realize these guys didn't teach themselves the beliefs they have. They got it from our generation, whether it be from teachers or for parents or for whatever else. They did not come up with these beliefs on their own. Jesus told us in Luke 6:40 that every student, when he's fully trained, will be like his teacher. So they learned this from our generation. So what's interesting to me right now is we have a time in church history where we're not doing very good at discipleship. We have professionals to do this for us, but discipleship is every one of us reach one. The church is not very healthy right now, and it's not very discipleship oriented. It's interesting to me that the millennial generation, Gen Z generation we have right now, they're the first generation in polling history that is asking to be mentored. They actually want an individual to spend time with them and teach them and help them work through things. We have a great opportunity for every one of us in this room to find a millennial, Gen Zer, make friends, create a relationship, take them out for coffee, ice cream, whatever, talk to them about their interests, and start asking questions. You know, it's interesting you would say that. Why do you believe that? And by the way, you do realize Jesus directed conversations just by asking questions? 300 questions Jesus asked in the gospel. Questions are everything. We, in the summertime, conduct leadership training for 18 through 25-year-olds in college, going into college, and master's or PhD. And when we get the kids first 2 weeks, we really don't care what they believe. All we do is ask them questions for the first 2 days of those 2 weeks, and they don't know why they believe what they believe. And once they can't defend why they believe what they believe, it's so easy to say, well, truth is what you're after. And here's how you know truth. Here's the questions you ask to find truth. Here's what you ask in economics. Here's what you ask in government. Here's what you ask in education. And you can lead that way. So we have an opportunity right now for every one of us that's not a millennial or Gen Zer to mentor a millennial or Gen Zer. They're headed the wrong direction, but God's given the church an opportunity to, if you will, heal itself by getting into discipleship again. So we have an opportunity in America that I've never seen before in our history. We have an opportunity to heal the church and heal the culture at the same time, but it will not be done through groups. It will be done through individuals. So I thank you for the honor you've given me tonight, but let me challenge you to be an individually roaring lamb that goes and finds one person and disciples one person for a year, and then find another person. We do that, we will turn this nation faster than any of us can comprehend. God bless you guys.